Hey guys, what is going on? This is Wrestlelamia, back with another episode. It's time for AEW's last pay-per-view of the year, a show with 13 matches and 7 championship bouts. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at AEW's 2022 Full Gear event, recapping the matches and looking at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. Zero-hour pre-show. Best friends Rocky Romero and Danhausen versus The Factory, QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, Lee Johnson, Nick Comoroto, and Cole Carter. The babyfaces are missing Danhausen, putting them at a disadvantage against the Nightmare Factory. Danhausen finally shows up, and it's the evil side of Danhausen as he doesn't hold back, taking out Nick Comoroto to secure the win. Your winners, best friends Rocky Romero and Danhausen. After the match, Danhausen lays QT out with a metal spike. AEW Eliminator match semifinals, Brian Cage with Prince Nana versus Absolute Ricky Starks. A passable match as Starks overcomes the disadvantage of his injured ribs and beats Cage with a destroyer, followed by the Rochambeau. Your winner, Ricky Starks, advances to the AEW Eliminator Finals. Jun Akiyama versus Eddie Kingston. It's a strong-style smorgasbord as Eddie Kingston battles the man who helped inspire him to become a wrestler. It's a brutal back-and-forth as Kingston finally puts Jun away with a spinning back fist. Your winner, Eddie Kingston. Now on to the main show. Steel cage match, Luchasaurus with Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry. It's ferocity versus heart as Christian Cage's right hand of destruction looks to put Perry down once and for all. However, no matter how much punishment Luchasaurus inflicts, Perry won't give up and he finally submits his former friend with the snare trap. Your winner, Jungle Boy Jack Perry. AEW Trios Championship match, Death Triangle versus The Elite with Don Callis and Brandon Cutler. This wild trios match sees the fans welcome the Elite back wholeheartedly as both teams push each other to the brink. Ray Phoenix finally gives in to Pac's encouragement, using a hammer to get the cheap win over Kenny Omega. Your winners and still AEW Trios Tag Team Champions, Death Triangle. TBS Championship match, Jade Cargill defends against Nyla Rose with Vicky Guerrero. Nyla Rose gives Jade Cargill one of her biggest challenges yet, but even Rose's power and weight advantage isn't enough as Cargill hits Jaded for the pinfall, continuing her impressive win streak. Your winner and still TBS champion, Jade Cargill. Saraya versus Dr. Britt Baker. Baker starts off strong, targeting Saraya's surgically repaired neck. However, Saraya is nobody's punching bag and fights back, delivering a knee strike and 2 captured DDTs to make a statement. Your winner, Saraya. Three-way match for the TNT Championship, Wardlow defends against Powerhouse Hobbs and Ring of Honor television champion Samoa Joe. All three men have their moments, but after Hobbs takes Joe out at ringside, he turns his attention to Wardlow, who makes short work of him with 2 powerbombs. Wardlow goes for a third, but Joe hits him in the head with a title belt, locking an unconscious Hobbs in the Coquina Clutch for the win and the belt. Your winner and new TNT champion, Samoa Joe. Interim AEW Women's Championship match, Toni Storm defends against Jamie Hayter. These two former friends don't hold back as Hayter fights for her first AEW title. Despite a spirited effort, Jamie can't put Storm away, and it takes interference from Rebel and Dr. Britt Baker to turn the tide, with Hayter throwing Storm into an exposed turnbuckle and clotheslining her for the win and the title. Your winner and new AEW Interim Women's Champion, Jamie Hayter. AEW World Tag Team Championship match, The Acclaimed defend against Swerve in Our Glory, Keith Lee, and Swerve Strickland. Match 3 of this terrific trilogy sees The Acclaimed's Anthony Bowens working with an injured shoulder. Strickland takes it too far when he grabs the clippers and hands them to Keith Lee so they can maim Anthony Bowens' fingers. Lee refuses and Strickland slaps him, with Lee leaving Strickland alone. The Acclaim makes short work of Strickland, hitting the Magic Killer for the win. Your winners and still tag team champions, The Acclaimed. AEW World Heavyweight Championship match, Jon Moxley with William Regal defends against MJF. It's a very pro-MJF crowd, but Moxley doesn't care as he beats MJF down with his combination of brawling and submission moves. MJF's problems worsen when he injures his knee after pile-driving Mox on the mat apron and landing wrong. MJF takes out 2 referees just when Moxley seems to have the match won. MJF goes for his Dynamite Diamond ring, but William Regal tells him not to use it, only to slide the brass knuckles to MJF, who then punches Moxley's lights out for the 1, 2, 3, your winner and new AEW World Heavyweight Champion, MJF. The Good. Kingston nails it. Eddie Kingston was at the top of his game tonight with his bout against Jun Akiyama proving a pleasant surprise on a so-so pre-show. The match was even better because AEW told the tale of how Jun was such an integral part of Eddie wanting to become a wrestler. Kingston's post-match thanks to Jun and other Japanese stars was a hella hat tip to fans of Japanese wrestling, and him hyping the fans to order Full Gear suggests he should be AEW's pitchman. A classic cage match. Full Gear started off strong, no surprise as both WWE and AEW seem to know how vital it is to start the show off with an awesome match. With a brutal cage match that told a story nearly as old as pro wrestling itself, two former tag team partners turned mortal enemies. Jungle Boy had his work cut out for him against Luchasaurus' size and power advantage, but his tremendous heart won out. This match proved both men are bona fide single stars, and while they may not be main event ready, they're definitely entrenched in the upper card. A good return. Although tonight's Saraya vs. Britt Baker wasn't a 5-star classic, it showed that Saraya still has plenty left in the tank, and that with time and more matches, she could make a difference in AEW. There's no doubt Britt Baker was a perfect opponent to help Saraya with her return match, but Saraya will have to prove she can work against lesser opponents as well. The women get their moments. AEW's women's division has been heavily and often rightfully criticized for having too many mediocre to average talents. That seems to be changing as tonight's show featured several strong women's matches, suggesting AEW has finally built a strong core of female talent. The company still needs to work on some of its other wrestlers, but there finally seems to be hope for the company. The Elite are back. The Elite made their long-awaited return, working a phenomenal match against the Trios champions Death Triangle. This match proved the value of the Trios title, with all 6 men putting on a showcase. Of course, this comes as no surprise as the Lucha Brothers had a great program with the Bucks over the AEW World Tag Team titles, while AEW fans still talk about Kenny Omega and Pac's battle in AEW's early days. The story behind this match was Pac trying to convince his teammates to cut corners, with Pac eventually prevailing when Rey Fenix used a hammer on Omega for the win. This one is just beginning, however, as AEW has booked the two teams into a best-of-7 series. A good mix of styles. Full Gear was aptly named as AEW got back on track, providing a well-balanced variety of match styles to entertain the fans for 5 hours. The show had brutal brawls, fast-paced tag matches, some fantastic championship matches, and some sick bumps, including Moxley pile-driving MJF through a table. This was a good pay-per-view to finish the year, especially after the mixed bag that was All Out, not to mention its post-show shenanigans. MJF is the man. MJF has done it, and while his title win was one of AEW's most overbooked matches ever, see more about this in our bad section, it's a good sign for AEW's future, as the company embraces arguably its most popular star. With CM Punk seemingly gone, AEW needs to bounce back from the bad press of the last few months and move forward with a champion who can push the fans' buttons with ease while putting on magnificent matches. The Bad. A bathroom break bout. What can you say about tonight's Sting and Darby Allin vs. Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett match? The match really exposed Sting and Jeff Jarrett's age. The match wasn't horrendous, but it wasn't anything that belonged on pay-per-view. AEW needs to rethink its use of Sting, not because he has nothing to contribute to matches, but because it may be time for more cinematic matches. What's next for Wardlow? The only good thing about Wardlow dropping the TNT Championship is that he didn't count the lights himself. Wardlow's TNT Championship reign has been a disaster, and it would have ended even worse if AEW had him jobbing out for Joe or Hobbs. As things stand, it's hard to imagine what's next for Wardlow, as AEW has shown it has no idea how to book him as TNT champion, and a World Championship would not only ruin MJF's potentially powerful reign, but likely do little for Wardlow. Wardlow is sinking in quicksand, and AEW needs to find a strong story to pull him out before he becomes AEW Dark's resident big man. An anticlimactic main event. Tonight's main event was a bit of a letdown as Moxley and MJF proved that their previous match failing to click wasn't a fluke and that both men's styles seemed to clash. While it was fantastic to see MJF win the AEW World Championship, the match itself was flat, with MJF showing very little offense and looking more like a fluke champion. Regal's treachery wasn't a shocker, but it was a good way of carrying on the wrestling trope of an evil manager finding a new and younger talent to replace an existing champion. The Downright Ugly. Nothing ugly on this 5-hour epic. Unlike AEW's past 2 pay-per-views, this one seemed to move at the perfect pace, with the entire show having a rhythm that kept fans tuned in, except the Sting vs. Jarrett match, which struck a bad note. If AEW can build off the show's momentum, it might be able to help its sagging ticket sales for Dynamite and Rampage. Well guys, there you have it, WrestleLamia's recap and analysis of the 2022 edition of Full Gear. What did you think of the show? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time for some more wrestling content.